Hey there folks, and welcome back to the I Am CDB project. I of course am your host CDB. You are not, and we have a number of things to cover today, so let's get right into it. First, before the 4th of July weekend, or during the 4th of July weekend last weekend, I didn't give a chance to announce the winner of the West Coast shaving brush, which you see here, which is really excellent. It's their Deranged series, I believe it's called, and the winner of this one was Ronald Chastain. So Ronald, email me your address and I will get this out to you this week. I want to thank West Coast Shaving once again for allowing me to try this beautiful brush and allowing me to give one away. So Ronald, this will be coming to you. Congrats, Ronald. And I'm also trying something new today from a lady, a really nice lady named Colleen from the Gentleman's Quarter, and I don't know if you can see that. It's probably difficult to see. Anyway, today I'm trying Savon de Champagne, which is lavender with sweet orange and sparkling fresh lemon. It smells very nice. She sent me a few samples that look like this. They're fairly hard. Now that said, they sat in the mailbox of my old home for several days and it's been like close to 100 degrees, so it could have made the soap a little more difficult to work with, but I've worked it up into a lather and we'll be trying it. But before we get into all of that, I want to draw your attention to, well, I already had one out. Stand by just a minute. Let me grab the blade so I can show you the difference. Stay tuned. All right, and so we're back, and I wanted to show you the difference between the old style packaging or labeling on the Astra blade, which you see here, and it's on both sides, and the new, which is very difficult to see, and the other side has no labeling at all. I have been told, or actually I received an email from a customer who sent an email to the manufacturer, and these are indeed legit. They're not counterfeit. It's just the new way that they label them, and the label is very difficult to see, and it's only on one side as compared to the old, which was, you know, easily identifiable on both sides. So have no fear, these are legit. First time I'm using one. They're newer, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be putting it in the Timeless open comb, scalloped with the 95.95 blade gap, which is one of my favorite razors. Great folks at Timeless. You know, I always have good things to say about Timeless. This is one of my favorite razors. Let me go ahead and wet the face and we'll get ready to get into it. Stay tuned. All right, so here we go with our Gentleman's Quarter. If you can see that, again, this one is Savon de Champagne, and it smells very nice. And we'll see how it performs. It's kind of a harder soap, or at least mine was, but again, you know, it has sat out in the sun in that hot mailbox for a while, so that could have melted and rehardened and who knows what, so keep that in mind. But I'll tell you what, it smells nice. And Colleen is a nice lady. She's been in the groups, or at least some that I'm in, for a couple of years now, I want to say, and she had intended to send some of her products and just got around to it recently, so I said, sure, I'll try it and let you know what I think. Again, I found it a little more difficult to lather this than normal, but it does lather. It smells great, I can tell you that. So let's see what we're working with. Let's see how it performs. That's really what it comes down to with the Timeless. So we'll put it through its paces with a relatively aggressive razor, which is the Timeless. And again, I'm using this new style Astra blade. Some say they've noticed a difference. For me, I'm not noticing a lot of difference here, to tell you the truth. It seems just like a regular old Astra to me. According to the manufacturer, it's the same old blade, just with a different type of labeling on it. So, and it feels that way for me. It just feels like a garden variety Astra, as far as I'm concerned. Feels pretty good, to tell you the truth. Nice fresh blade and a great razor, and the soap seems you know, plenty slick enough and so forth. So no problems on a performance basis. Plenty of residual slickness here, it feels like, because as you can see, there's not a ton of visible lather, and it's still doing just fine. So on the first pass, soap seems okay. Again, a little more difficult to lather, but it did just fine. So let me just wipe some of this off the face and put a little moisture on it, and then we'll go for another pass and see how we do pass number 2. Hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. So far last night, went out and had dinner with some friends, which was nice, and I would encourage you all to do so. Get out there and enjoy yourselves to the degree that you can. One of the things that I think I've mentioned in the previous videos, sometimes I tend to silo myself off from friends and family. I become complacent, and really to my detriment. And the changes in my life, you know, recently with the divorce and all that, I have really come to appreciate family and friends more. So I've made a concerted effort to stay more connected to those folks, and I have really enjoyed doing so. So I'm trying to be more active just about in every regard as it applies to, you know, friends and family. A little less so on social media, although I'm on it some. You know, I'm not on it all the time. I read some articles, I read the news, I post some things. You know, I'm obviously not doing as many videos. Trying to actually, you know, live in the real world and not in the world of social media. Although, you know, when you're using social media, you're just sort of bouncing things off people as to what goes on in your life and all. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think if you can, it's best to, you know, really try to stay connected with those you're close to and your family, and if you do that, I think, you know, you'll be happy in doing so. Sometimes I think we all have a tendency, or at least I do, to sort of silo off and just sort of live in my own little world, or get caught up in social media and things like that, and the news and the events of the world, and not focus as much on what's going on right in front of me or right around me. And so I have been making an effort to do more of that, and I have enjoyed doing so, and life is better having done so, I'll say. At least thus far anyway. All right, let's see what we got here. Stand by just one moment. All right, and we're back for our third and final pass. The soap has performed quite well again, and I don't mean to belabor this point, but I always like to be honest, both for the artisan and the viewer. This was a little bit more difficult to lather. Again, I caveat it by saying it set out in the 100-degree, virtually, probably more than 100-degree inside the mailbox for several days, because it went to my old address and then had to go get it. It was left in the mailbox, and anyway, I did obtain it, so it could have, you know, made that soap a little harder by virtue of melting and then rehardening. I don't know, I'm just speculating, but the performance has actually been pretty good. It feels good on my skin. The razor's gliding wonderfully, and this one smells great. So I like the scent for sure. Very, very nice. So I say, Colleen, great job with that. Although it does take a little more effort to lather, I think the end result is pretty nice. By the way, this is the Envy Shape 8-ball brush, and of course I'm using the Timeless. So far, folks, through 2 passes, the new Astra blade feels exactly the same as the old. I cannot tell any difference whatsoever. There are some who say they don't feel the same. To me, it's just like every Astra that I've ever used, hundreds and hundreds of them. It's sort of my go-to blade, and this one feels no different despite the labeling change. I think what really set that off was people thought they were counterfeit. And sometimes when you get something in your head, you know, it can, you know, what you think are physical things can manifest. But from my perspective, this feels just like every other Astra I've ever used. No difference whatsoever. Feels just like my go-to blade. So the only difference is the way it looks. But I must say, sometimes that placebo effect, you know, is hard to get over. When people get something in their head, it does become their reality. And I would suspect that's what has happened. As soon as they saw this blade and they thought it might not be a real Astra, and the next thing you know, oh, it doesn't feel the same. Or maybe it didn't feel the same. I mean, it's possible. Maybe you got a bad blade. That can happen. But for me, it feels just like every other Astra that I have used, with no difference at all. So take that into consideration as you will. I'm saying they're just fine, at least for my purposes. Nothing different other than the way it looks. So there is that. All right, we've concluded the third pass. Excuse me. Let me rinse off. We'll come back and do the post. Stay tuned. All right, and here we are back with the magic made by witches. Thayer's Witch Hazel, which is great stuff. By the way, I did feel my face prior to putting this on, and it feels wonderful. So I had absolutely no performance issues from the soap from Colleen, which is the Gentleman's Quarter. And again, this one that I used today was called Savon de Champagne, which is lavender, sweet orange, and fresh lemon. I like the scent. Good scent on this. I'd say 7.5 to 8. Fairly robust scent. Little difficult to lather. However, I thought it was a really nice performing soap in terms of the way the razor glide, had plenty of slickness, cushion glide, and all that stuff. So I didn't have any problems with it at all. So hopefully that's a good sign for you, Colleen. And we'll finish this off today. Well, after, let's talk about the razor, of course. Timeless scalloped open comb with a 0.95 gap, which is just a tremendous efficient razor. I love it. Love the people at Timeless. I love, of course, my Timeless bowl, which is my favorite. Of course, my Envy Shave 8-ball, which is one of my favorite brushes as well. And we'll finish it off with Floid Black, which is my favorite of the Floids by far. In fact, it's the only one I've owned. I've owned the other ones in the past, but Floid Black is my favorite. It just has a wonderful cologne type scent, and it hangs around a pretty good while, and it's great stuff. Just smells like a really nice cologne. Again, Floid Black. Check it out if you like a nice cologne type scents. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Once again, I've been your host, CDB. You are not. Until next time, God bless.